all your fault, man.
Let me allow to record, rename. No, I can let you change role to attendee. No, allow to record, rename. You want to try again, maybe?
Got it.
I have nothing against your video camera. How about I make you host and then see?
Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Awesome.
Great success.
In my benevolence, I made you host, and now you have video rights. So
great.
Awesome. Great background there. I don't know if it's the actual background or the apartment, but it looks awesome. We're going to wait for 30 more seconds for more people to join. And by the way, this is recorded. So afterwards, we'll distribute it. Before we get started, how you doing? You doing okay?
Doing fine. Give me just 1 second. No
problem. And people who are joining in, thank you very much. Alrighty. So we have enough people joining. I'm assuming more people are going to join us. And so pretty much let's get started. So hi, everyone. Welcome to Funding Stories. This is our 6th episode. Basically, we host deep tech companies and tell their funding story and how their startup got funded, both kind of venture capital and non-dilutive funding from US federal agencies. This is hosted by the Eagle Point Funding, and we're kind of the world's premier in grant consultancy. And we help deep tech startups. We're going to talk about it today, what we kind of did with Coiled, but we want to help you get non-dilutive funding. I am extremely excited to be here on the episode with Matt. He's a great friend. He's the CEO of Coiled. And if I'm describing it correctly, and please tell me if I'm doing it wrong, a machine learning cloud computing company that helps companies scale their analytics and workflows on cloud, built by the founders of Dask. So super excited to speak with Matt. We've been introduced just a few months ago. It's been amazing to see what you guys have done and the progress and the growth. And also Matt has like 15 years of development experience and a PhD from University of Chicago. So without further ado, hey Matt, welcome.
Hi Yoav. Hi everyone. Good to meet you all.
So let's kind of just get right to it. What does Coil do? And then we'll start with kind of your story.
Yeah, sure. So as you said, Coil is a company that makes it easy to scale Python on the cloud, most commonly for data science and machine learning use cases. We're based around Dask, an open source technology that's been around for 5 or 6 years. It's probably the preeminent sort of Python native scalability solution today. While Dask is fairly mature, it's 5 or 6 years old, it's got a tremendous user base. Coild's only about a year old. That being said, we're really being pushed forward really quickly because we're in the middle of lots of very interesting trends. So there's the whole sort of data science, machine learning, AI revolution. There's the movement of everyone to cloud. And then there's the adoption of Python in enterprise and lots of other more conservative organizations. So that combined with Dask open source adoption gives us a lot more momentum than you would typically see out of a startup of our age.
So you've had a pretty extensive academic career in development and pretty much been in academia since 2003. What made you kind of start and manage your own company?
Yeah, so most of the Python community is actually built by people who were ex-academics. We were all scientists who wrote software in order to solve some problems. And our story is that generally that software ended up being much more valuable than the research that we were doing at the time. So I, for example, was working a lot in power systems and renewable energy and sort of how they played with each other. In doing so, I worked on a lot of software that was open source. And what I found is that that was really where a lot of my impact was taking place. I then joined Anaconda, which is sort of one of the first sort of for-profit Python companies where a lot of the open source community went to. While there, I was mostly working on trying to scale Python. So Python isn't known as a really large parallel computing language. This is during the sort of the big data revolution. So it was a big challenge to how do we scale up the entire Python ecosystem together. In focusing on that for a long time and worked on Dask, and then Dask blew up. And so I went from being an engineer to a lead developer to a community organizer. And for many, many years, I was actually working on organizing not just Anaconda, but actually Anaconda, NVIDIA, Capital One, lots of different companies who all had Dask teams trying to coordinate their efforts together. Eventually, it just became very clear that it needed to be a Dask company to sort of support the growth of Dask in a more primary way. So that led to the creation of Coiled about a year ago.
So how did you kind of actually start? What was the funding source? How did you do that leap?
Yeah, so we actually started with the idea of bootstrapping because we already have a lot of really strong relationships with large companies who use Dask. But at the time, it ended up just being very easy to get some seed funding. So we started with some venture capital funding, and that made us so we could hire people with kids and lower risk profile. And we burned that actually really slowly. So we raised about 5 million, I think in April of last year, and we burned maybe 1 million of that. And then we very recently raised a Series A led by Bessemer. That's about 21 million. So we've got around 26 million of total venture capital funding. And that's the main source of our money today. I'm sure we'll also talk about sort of the non-dilutive capital we got from the SBR recently.
Sure. What made you, if we already jumped it, what made you decide to take another, by the way, congratulations, that's phenomenal and awesome. What made you take that second round?
Yeah, so what we found, so I'm a very conservative person by heart. And so we were burning really, really slowly to test the hypothesis that people were willing to pay for the DevOps and the organizational structure that Coil provides around Dask. What we found is that Dask was really popular among individuals and companies, and that high performers were able to scale it on their company's infrastructure, but it's very hard to replicate that experience and make IT comfortable throughout the entire organization. And so Coil provides a lot of that additional infrastructure, both on an IT and organizational scale. What we found after a year of making a relatively rudimentary project is that the demand for this was extremely high. And so we went and we raised more money, and that allowed us to grow quite a bit faster. And now their product development is just happening at a much, much faster pace.
So from the first round and the second round, what were the biggest challenges and lessons you've learned?
The biggest lesson we learned was that we knew more than we thought we did. So again, that conservatism was probably that was a mistake. We should have put the gas. We should have pushed on the gas much earlier in the company. We've corrected for that now. In terms of actually securing that funding, it's actually not particularly hard to secure funding today, especially if you have a strong open source background behind you. Companies are very excited to be part of our journey today.
Wow. How long, can I ask, how long did it take to do kind of the 21 million round? If we're already a little bit in it.
Yeah, no, I think we actually got a preemptive offer in like early December. We didn't take that offer, but that triggered a round of conversations. So we did a lightweight process, and I think we nailed it down to 2 folks in late December. And then there was sort of a closing period of a couple of months where lawyers were working on things. But a few weeks is the answer.
So before we move to the non-dilutive part, can I ask, how do you see Coiled kind of 2, 3, 4 years down the road? What's your vision?
Yeah, so right now we're focused on a couple of different things. We've got a few very large customers who are using Coiled in hardcore enterprise situations. But most of our focus on the product is actually around increasing accessibility for smaller teams and for individuals, something that we're actually really passionate about. What I love about Coil is that we're able to build a product that serves some of the most conservative, largest organizations in the world. And we're also able to apply that product to individuals. So we're actually aiming much more for a developer tool like GitHub that has really changed the way lots of people work. Over the next few years, we're seeing a few different things. So there's a lot of growth of Dask itself, the open source package. And this is really exciting. And lots of other companies are now building technologies around Dask. So for example, NVIDIA, the GPU manufacturer, their GPU data science platform, Rapids, is based around Dask. Microsoft just released their planetary computer, which is based around Dask, allowing people to view and understand the world through satellite imagery a bit better. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, founded by Priscilla Chan and Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, are using Dask with Napari, their biomedical image viewer. And so there's a lot of growth of Dask not just for traditional business applications, but in lots of other non-traditional but highly data-oriented applications. And so that really speaks to the potential and also a lot of the humanistic aspects that we can support.
It sounds like 10 years down the road, like you're going to be integrated to almost any one of those applications and technologies.
Yeah, I mean, we already are, right? So if you think about in a technology stack, Dask is something a little bit maybe like Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is infrastructure, right? You build a lot of applications on top of Kubernetes. Dask is kind of like that for the Python data-oriented computing space. Kubernetes itself is not sufficiently flexible and not sufficiently performance-oriented to think about computations like this at scale. You need sort of an interstitial layer, and Dask really provides a lot of that computational infrastructure that buffers between an IT system like Kubernetes and a bunch of data science users who are using Python in their daily work.
Okay. Folks, for people who are listening now or maybe listening later, I highly recommend reaching out to the Coiled people if you're interested in kind of digging deeper and see what it can do for you. For us, it's been great working with you. If you don't mind, let's talk about the kind of non-dilutive part.
Yeah.
When when did federal funding, U.S. federal funding, became interesting or a part of your tactics or strategy?
Yeah, this was honestly, this was not our original strategy. We're much more focused on the commercial side, but there was a great opportunity that arose and just a perfect combination of factors. So we work with a federal services partner called MetroStar, and they had a prior engagement with the Air Force. They were bringing us in because they're building a data science platform for the Air Force, and they wanted Dask to be a core component of that platform. We happen to know these people, they're really old friends, and so we also sold them a Dask support license. The end customer, the Air Force, this is the 309th Airborne Division out of Hill Air Force Base, who works on preventative maintenance of aircraft. They saw us, they had plans to move to the cloud. They said, well, great, maybe we can accelerate those plans and we can augment their existing deal with MetroStar with a direct SBAR to us. And so the SBR allowed us to add into that existing contract and add some new capabilities for the customer. We're accelerating their movement to cloud, and it allows us to get a lot more exposure to really a fantastic set of problems. They've got a really fun set of data sets and really exciting challenges we're excited to play with.
So how long did it take for you to decide if this is aligned with what you're trying to do with Coiled? A lot of people get worried, would this distract us? Is it too hard? And is the DoD a diva or not? But like, how did you decide that this was a fit for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we decided that after we received the money. So as you know, Yoav, we had a quick deadline for the direct to phase 2 SBR proposal. And so we knew that we were not qualified to go through that process. We needed a partner to do that. So Eagle Point was instrumental in giving us that option. From my perspective, that was maybe 40 hours of work, probably a bit less, and you all carried most of the weight there. And we waited a few months, and we heard that we were accepted. And so we got a grant of $750,000 to work with our partners in the Air Force. Now we had to decide: did we want to take that money? In general, for growth-oriented startups that are really focused on a developer-first experience, it's all about really fast turnaround. We care about fast feedback cycles, and the U.S. federal government is not known for fast turnaround. Most people we knew suggested we wait a little bit on this process. But with the federal partner, a MetroStar, already in play, and with this particular customer, we were convinced that it was not too distracting, and we're also just really excited about the opportunity.
So how was the process for you? How was the actual writing the application, making it a fit, but also later negotiations and taking it? Like, how was the process on starting to work with the Air Force for you?
Yeah, the SBR process again was fine. You all made it easy. We actually also haven't started work yet. Like all the players are now just coming to the board sort of this month and next month. So the actual work hasn't begun. In general, working with the customer, they've been great. So we have had to change our scope of work since the original application, just to sort of align with our current goals. And they've been very helpful with that. Yeah, so far it's been fine, but we haven't really hit all of the challenges just yet.
What are important things you think companies should know about the process, about finding that match or going after R&D funding?
It was not as painful as I had expected. Uh, yeah. Um, there's also, I think, a lot of, so the Air Force is a lot like a lot of other commercial clients, right? So the problems they have are predictive maintenance, which is actually really common in, Boeing or Caterpillar or other customers that we talk to at that scale.
Mhm.
They're also facing a lot of the same challenges that a lot of our commercial customers are facing. They're moving from on-prem to the cloud. They want to
Mhm.
handle both traditional data-oriented computing, and they've got a lot of new interesting pipelines they want to build. And so I think that we were able to work with the Air Force customer to make them look and feel a lot more like a commercial customer for us. And
Mhm.
that really made it make a lot more sense for us. That, again, in addition to a lot of the federal partners that we're able to engage, that can help us to think about productizing this for more federal customers in the future.
Mhm.
There's a whole ecosystem to get into if you want to get into it. We were able to structure our deal such that it fit with how we normally think about customers, and that made
Mhm.
everything work well for us.
So you're able to, as long as it aligns, you're able to make it kind of be a fit for you and run towards what you're trying to accomplish anyway.
Yeah. And I think the individuals in these organizations are very much aware of those challenges, and they're very
Mhm.
happy to work with us.
Do you see yourself applying for more agencies or expanding your federal work kind of 2, 3 years down the road, or you're happy with what you have right now?
We're not focused on growth of this particular opportunity. There are a couple of other groups that have reached out, and we use those other groups to define requirements to make sure that the things we're building will be reproducible in the future. But this
Mhm.
isn't like a major go-to-market strategy for us.
Okay.
We do think it could probably grow inside of this one account. So this, I
Mhm.
mean, it's also potentially a large account for us, um, but we're not actively seeking additional federal opportunities yet. They do tend to
Mhm.
come to us though. Like we're not going to turn down an interesting customer if they show up.
Okay. Anything else you want to say, share to the people listening, afterwards, both on the process or about Coiled? Who would you want to reach out to you later? Who would you be interesting to speak, cooperate, or interact with later on?
Yeah, I think in general, so it's many organizations today, federal, private, nonprofit, are dealing with large data challenges. And I think we at Coiled have a decade of experience dealing with those things in Python. Uh, the way our product is set up is very much geared towards partnerships, both technical and service partnerships. And so we really thrive with partners. And we've seen a tremendous ecosystem in the federal space of partnerships. And so that's maybe a good place for engagement, either for us or with other customers. I think there's a good, uh, the technology space has evolved to support best of breed, very focused technology products, which
Mhm.
really often require systems integrators to work well. And so I think there's actually a great opportunity in the federal space, which has a lot of systems integrators, to
Mhm.
work with more technology-focused tech startups. There's a very clear symbiosis that's present there. Our experience with MetroStar is a good example of that symbiosis, but I think
Mhm.
that other groups could probably replicate that as well. There's a lot of opportunity. The federal government wants to revolutionize itself, and it needs a lot of help.
Yeah. Great. First, again, congratulations a ton on the next round. Um, like, are there any more funding rounds coming down the road? You've been moving like light speed, but
We burned 1 million of our $5 million seed. I don't want to repeat that process again. We've got more than enough cash to play with, and revenue's coming in. I mean, the reason, so no, not looking for more funding right now.
um, great. I think that's it. if you have any more information or vision or people you want to speak with, Coiled, free, like if you want to toot your own horn, feel free to say it now, or but I think we're good.
Yeah, great. Maybe two last calls to action. So there was a Dask conference that happened just last week. Actually, it was really exciting. A ton of very exciting people showed up. If you go to summit.dask.org, you can see a lot of the information there that occurred if you're interested in the open source technology. If you are already a Dask user and want to try Dask at scale in the cloud, you can get started in about 2 minutes. So if you can pip install Coiled, pip is the Python package manager, and you can import Coiled into anywhere that you run Python. Anybody can get started in a couple of minutes. It's a very easy way to go from your laptop to 1,000 machines in the cloud and run Python at scale.
Well, so great. We'll be sure to put that information also on our post as well. And again, Matt, thank you so much for doing this. It's been great working with you. And anybody who's listening now or later, highly recommend reaching out to those folks. They're awesome and they're great to work with. They're great to play with. And if you have questions about R&D funding, feel free to reach back to us. We'd be happy to see if we can replicate the success that we've had with Coiled. But again, Matt, eternally grateful. Thank you for joining. And thank you.
Thank you, Yoav. We couldn't have done this without you.
I'm the small piece. I did very little. But either way, again, thank you very much, folks. Thank you, Matt. And I think that's a wrap.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. And I think your host, if you want to give me host rights again, I will stop the recording.
I'll just press this stop button.